Hey, tonight we're heading to a different kind of nightmare. Less castles and goat stew, more barbed wire and frostbite. If you've ever thought, man, I would have been such a badass in World War II, buckle up, private. We're about to test that fantasy in the worst way possible. This isn't your grandpa's heroic war story with dramatic speeches and dramatic music and Tom Hanks sobbing on a beach. This is what happens when everything goes wrong. You get captured. You're alone, scared, lice-ridden, and suddenly fluent in the international language of "don't kill me." Before we jump into the cold mud pit that is your new life, take a second to like the video and maybe subscribe if you enjoy historical suffering delivered in a sleepy voice. And let me know in the comments what country you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Always interesting to see who's falling asleep to disaster. Now dim the lights, get under a blanket that wasn't issued by the Red Cross, maybe turn on a fan so you can pretend it's wind blowing through the broken slats of a wooden barracks wall. Let's take a very slow, very uncomfortable journey into what it was really like to be an American soldier captured by the Germans in World War II. You thought you were going to Europe to fight evil. You didn't think you'd end up freezing in a wooden box with nothing but sauerkraut soup and regret for company. But here we are. Welcome to the worst vacation of your life. You wake up to the sound of boots, not marching, just someone coughing, turning, maybe throwing up in the bunk below yours. It's cold, it smells like wet wool and tobacco, and your spine's already yelling, despite the fact you haven't moved yet. You're in a military barracks in the middle of somewhere you'll never care about, still in training, still pretending this is all going to be heroic somehow. You signed up, or got drafted, thinking you'd be a part of something big, historic, important. But mostly what you've experienced so far is sore feet, cold food, and that one guy in your unit who never learned what deodorant is. You've been screamed at by sergeants with voices like sandpaper, marched in circles for hours, and learned how to strip and clean a rifle in the dark with numb fingers. None of it feels real. It's all just noisy, boring preparation. Until now. Because today you're shipping out. Destination, Europe. Which, in theory, sounds kind of exciting. You've seen the posters. You've read the leaflets. You've been briefed in exactly the vague way the army loves. Lots of maps, no answers. Somewhere over there is the enemy. Somewhere over there is your future. Somewhere over there you will statistically get shot at, or blown up, or captured. But hey, there's also camaraderie, brotherhood, glory. You cling to that like a safety pin in a hurricane. You pack up everything the army gave you, which amounts to a duffel bag full of military-grade discomfort. Extra socks that will never be dry. Rations that somehow manage to taste both stale and metallic. A mess kit. A helmet. A tiny folding shovel you might actually die holding. And your dog tags. Those are important. If you lose those, they just label your body as unknown and call it a day. The train to the port is long and miserable. Every seat is a splinter trap. The windows are permanently fogged with breath and old cigarette smoke. The guy next to you is snoring through a sinus infection. The guy across from you hasn't spoken since breakfast and just stares at the floor like it owes him money. You try to sleep, but the train jerks every few minutes and your neck is already at war with your spine. At the docks, everything is loud, fast, and freezing. Soldiers bark orders. Trucks grind their gears. Crates get loaded with the kind of speed that says, "We're behind schedule," and also no one here cares if this box crushes you. You're herded like livestock onto a troop ship that's seen better days. Rust everywhere. Paint peeling like sunburned skin. The kind of smell that says oil, mould, and maybe regret. Inside, the quarters are tight. You're stacked in bunks, 4 high like human luggage. There's no privacy, no peace. Just steel, sweat, and the occasional whimper from someone trying not to cry. You eat food off a tray that rattles with every wave, and the only seasoning is despair. You try to write a letter home, but the paper's damp, and your hands are shaking from nerves or seasickness, or both. At sea, time loses meaning. It's just a blur of grey skies and grey water and grey thoughts. The ship rocks constantly, like a drunk trying to remember how to walk. If you're lucky, you vomit early and get it over with. If not, you spend 3 days turning green while your intestines stage a mutiny. The toilets are worse than anything you imagined. Stainless steel troughs that reek of everyone's bad decisions. You try not to breathe. You fail. You don't know exactly where you're going, because that's classified. But you hear rumours. France, Belgium, the Ardennes. Someone says you're going to be part of a big push. Someone else says it's suicide. You stop listening after a while. What are you going to do? Jump overboard? When land finally appears on the horizon, it's not triumphant. There's no brass band, no grand arrival. Just mud, fog, and a bunch of exhausted soldiers limping down the gangplank into another cold unknown. The locals don't cheer. They barely look at you. Another wave of American kids, all wearing the same expression, tired, hungry, and already regretting every life choice that led to this. You spend your first week in Europe digging foxholes, digging trenches, digging because someone told you to and no one told you why. The ground is hard, frozen in places, and your shovel feels like a cruel joke. Your hands blister, then bleed, then go numb. Welcome to the front lines. Sort of. You're not in combat yet, but the guns aren't far. You hear them at night. Dull thuds. Occasional cracks. You tell yourself it's training. It's not. The gear they gave you is wrong. The boots don't fit. The wool itches. Your rifle jams if you even think about moisture. Your gloves are too thin. Your canteen leaks. And the guy sharing your foxhole snores like a bear dying in slow motion. You lie awake wondering if the next few months will be the last few months. Then finally the word comes. You're moving up, deployment orders, you're going to the front. It's all very official and very vague. Trucks roll in, you pile on. The ride is long and cold, full of nervous laughter and silent stares. One guy tries to make a joke. No one laughs. Everyone's too busy trying not to look scared. You roll through ruined villages. Houses burned out. Windows shattered. Trees snapped in half like matchsticks. Cows wandering through rubble. A child staring blankly from a doorway that used to be a living room. You realise this isn't just some war movie with a clean plot and clear heroes. This is a slow-motion disaster, and you're a background character trying not to die before the credits. Eventually, the trucks stop. You're told this is your position. You're shown a map that looks like a child drew it while crying. You're handed ammo. Not enough. You're told to dig in, set up watch, and stay alert. Which sounds great, until you realise you haven't slept in 2 days, and your boots are still soaked from that stream you fell into 12 hours ago. Night falls like a trap. Cold air, complete darkness, and the sound of your own breath fogging in front of your face. Somewhere out there, the enemy is also breathing. Maybe just as scared as you. Maybe not. Maybe they're watching already. You try not to think about it. You fail again. The first firefight is fast and loud and confusing. You shoot because everyone else is shooting. You hit nothing. You dive into a hole and pray to a god you haven't spoken to since basic training. When it's over, someone's missing. Someone else is screaming. The sergeant curses, lights a cigarette with shaking hands, and tells you this is normal. You want to go home. You can't say it out loud. A few days later, it happens. You're on patrol. Snow crunches underfoot. Visibility's low. You get separated from your squad. You take a wrong turn. You stop to piss behind a barn that doesn't have a roof anymore. And then, boots, not yours. Voices, not English. You try to run. You don't get far. The barrel of a rifle stops you. The shouting starts. Hands go up. You drop your weapon. You're surrounded. And just like that, it's over. You're captured. And everything is about to get worse. Your knees hit the ground before you even realise you've moved. There's a guy yelling in German to your left, another behind you jabbing at your spine with the kind of urgency that doesn't need translation. Your helmet's gone, your rifle's gone, your dignity followed shortly after. And now you're staring at the snowy ground, hands in the air, breathing so hard it hurts. You try to remember what they said in training. If you're captured, stay calm, don't resist, don't give them anything but name, rank, serial number. That's all. Sounds simple enough when you're sitting in a warm tent with coffee in hand. A little harder when there's a guy with a machine gun glaring at you, like he's deciding which part of you to shoot first. They search you, not gently. Your coat is yanked open. Your pockets emptied. Cigarettes, gone. Chocolate, gone. A photo of your sister back home. Taken, flipped over, stared at, and then dropped in the snow like it means nothing. Which, here it doesn't. You're not a person anymore. You're inventory. Just one more problem for the Wehrmacht to deal with. They tie your hands, not behind your back, just in front, loose enough to walk, tight enough to remind you that you're not calling the shots anymore. You're shoved into line with two other guys. One's limping, the other's crying. You're trying very hard not to be either of them. The march begins. It's not a run. It's not a stroll. It's the worst kind of shuffle. Fast enough to make your legs scream, slow enough to feel every damn minute of it. You walk for hours, no idea where. No one tells you. The guards don't speak English, or they pretend not to. Doesn't matter. You don't get a map. You don't get a break. You get cold air, loud boots, and the sound of your heartbeat pounding somewhere between your ears. If you fall behind, they yell. If you fall too far behind, they jab you. If you fall down, you don't find out what happens. Because you don't fall down. You keep moving. Because you've seen enough war to know that mercy is usually reserved for the camera crews and officer class. The snow gets deeper. Your socks are soaked through. Your feet go from cold to painful to that weird numbness where you can't tell if they're still attached. You think about frostbite. You think about home. You think about that letter in your coat pocket that your girlfriend wrote 2 weeks ago. The one you didn't finish reading because you were too tired and figured you'd get to it later. Later's gone. You pass through ruined villages, burned out barns, empty homes with broken windows, and furniture turned into firewood. No people. Just silence. Sometimes a dog barking in the distance. Sometimes a curtain that moves when it shouldn't. Every time you look up, there's a rifle in your face, reminding you to keep your eyes down. You learn quickly. They don't feed you the first day. You get a single cup of water, cold and metallic, sloshed from a dented canteen and tasting like it's filtered through disappointment. You're starving, but that's irrelevant. You're an enemy soldier now. A mouth that needs feeding. A weight that needs moving. A future that depends entirely on strangers with guns and no reason to be nice. By nightfall, you're taken to a barn. Not for comfort, just because it has a roof. The floor is straw and dirt and probably frozen manure. You collapse on it like it's a 5-star hotel. Someone gives you a tin of something that might be soup, might also be hot water with the memory of vegetables. You drink it, every drop. There's no shame left in you. The guards sleep in the corner near the door, rifles across their laps. They take turns. You don't. You sleep if your body lets you. You dream in flashes, gunfire, yelling, your mother's voice, someone screaming in language you don't know. When you wake up, it's still dark, still cold, and you're still a prisoner. The next day is more walking. Your feet are blistered now. The laces of your boots feel like wire cutting through your ankles. You try not to limp, but you're not fooling anyone. One of the guards tosses you a look that says, "Fall, and I dare you." You don't. More prisoners join the line as the day goes on. British, French, a guy with a Canadian patch who looks like he hasn't slept in a week. No one talks much. Everyone's too busy surviving. The guards get jumpier. One prisoner whispers that the Russians are pushing from the east, and the Germans are moving everyone west to keep them from being liberated. You don't know if it's true, but it makes sense. You just hope west doesn't mean dead. Eventually, after what feels like years, compressed into 2 days, you reach a train yard. There's a line of old boxcars, rusty and echoing with the sound of boots and fear. One by one, you're shoved inside. No seats, no windows, just splintered wood, the stink of old cargo, and the slow realization that you have no idea where you're going. Only that is probably not good. They cram 60 of you into a space meant for maybe 30. You can't sit. You can't breathe properly. The air gets thick fast. Someone passes out. Someone throws up. Someone else starts praying in a whisper that doesn't stop, even after you beg him to shut up. The train starts moving, slowly, like it's in pain, like it's dragging all of you towards something it doesn't want to see either. You stand shoulder to shoulder for hours, maybe days. Hard to tell. Light seeps in through cracks in the boards. Snowflakes drift down through holes in the roof. Your legs shake. Your head throbs. Your stomach is empty enough to start eating itself. You hear someone talking about escape, but it's a fantasy. There's nowhere to run, and even if you did, you'd just freeze to death in some nameless German field while your captors laughed and moved on without you. When the train finally stops, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like the next part of a very long punishment. The doors creak open. Sunlight. Screaming. Dogs barking. Orders shouted in German. You blink and stumble into the light. You're pushed, counted, insulted. There's a sign you can't read, and guards in long coats who don't smile. Beyond the gates, a camp. Barbed wire, watchtowers, barracks. It's not a prison. It's not a fort. It's something much worse. Something that doesn't care about the Geneva Convention or your polite confusion. You're processed, again, not gently. Your coat is taken, your boots inspected. You're shoved into a barracks with 24 other men who all look like they gave up about a week ago. You find a corner. You sit. You breathe. And you realise you've officially entered a new world. A world with no clocks, no privacy, no freedom. Just cold mornings, loud guards, and the hope that someone somewhere remembers you're even alive. You don't know how long you'll be here. No one tells you, because that's not part of the brochure. You're not sure how long you've been standing in this line. Could be 15 minutes. Could be 2 hours. Time doesn't work the same here. You're surrounded by men who look just as hollow as you feel. Nobody talks. Nobody asks questions. There's just the sound of boots on gravel and the occasional sharp bark of a guard reminding everyone that standing still is a privilege, not a right. Eventually, it's your turn. Processing, they call it. Like you're a shipment of goods. A box to be labelled, filed, and mostly ignored. You're led into a small room that smells like mildew and old sweat. One guard stands at the door. Another sits behind a table covered in forms you'll never get to read. There's no interpreter. They don't ask if you understand. They just bark questions and expect nods. Name, rank, serial number. You give them exactly that, nothing more. That's what they drilled into your head back in basic. You stick to the script, even though your throat is dry and your voice cracks halfway through. The guard writes it down with a pencil that looks like it's been chewed halfway to death. You wonder if he even cares. Probably not. You're one of hundreds today, maybe thousands this month. Next comes the stripping. Your uniform, taken. Every piece of it. Jacket, shirt, pants, socks, even your underwear. You're standing naked in a room with men holding rifles and no visible patients. It's not humiliation for them, it's procedure. You're not a soldier anymore, you're a body, just something to be counted and searched. They inspect your clothes first. Pockets turned inside out. Seams poked with metal rods. Looking for maps, hidden blades. Hope? They don't find anything. You weren't clever. You barely remembered to bring your gloves. But they check anyway, and when they're done, your clothes are thrown in a pile that definitely isn't coming back. They hand you replacements. Calling them clothes would be generous. It's a thin, scratchy shirt that feels like it's been boiled and left out to dry on a gravel road. The pants are 2 sizes too big and held up by a piece of string. Your new shoes are wooden clogs or leather slippers or whatever was left over from the last unfortunate soul who didn't need them anymore. The soles are smooth and slippery, and just thick enough to make walking slightly worse. You're not allowed to keep anything personal. Not the letter in your coat pocket. Not your watch. Not the photo of your sister. Not even the dog tags, if one of the guards is having a bad day. They say it's for security. You know it's about control. Strip a man of his name, his memories, his tools, and you get something easier to manage. Not a soldier, not a man, just a prisoner. They buzz your hair. You didn't ask for a haircut, doesn't matter. Clippers scrape against your scalp like dull shears through hay. The guard doesn't speak, just holds your head steady with a hand that smells like machine oil and old cigarettes. When it's done, he doesn't show you a mirror. You probably wouldn't want to see what's in it anyway. Next, a shower. That word used loosely. It's a cement room with rusted pipes, a flickering bulb, and water colder than honesty. You're shoved inside with 15 other guys and told to wash fast. The water pressure is a joke. You get maybe 30 seconds of liquid agony before the pipe sputters and dies. There's no towel. You stand there dripping, teeth chattering, while the door creaks open again. A guard throws a bundle of cloth at your feet like feeding time at the zoo. More clothes. A coat, if you're lucky. A cap that smells like it's had at least 3 previous owners, none of whom knew what soap was. You pull everything on while your skin's still damp and already regret it. The itch starts almost immediately. It's not the kind of itch you can scratch. It's deeper. Like your skin is protesting this whole situation. The fabric rubs like sandpaper. Your collar cuts into your neck. The seams feel like they're stitched with wire. It's not just discomfort. It's insult. A constant, crawling reminder that even your own skin doesn't want to be part of this anymore. Then you're herded out of the building. No ceremony, no explanation. Just the back of a guard's head and the trudge of dozens of half-dressed men behind you. You're taken to your new home. A barracks made of warped wood, patched with metal sheets, leaning slightly like it's trying to escape too. There's no insulation. No glass on the windows, just thick shutters and gaps that let the wind in for free. Inside, it's worse. Bunks stacked 3 high. No mattresses, just straw. Old, dark straw that smells like rot and rat urine. Some of it's damp. Some of it's crawling. You pick the top bunk and try not to think about how it might collapse. There's no pillow. Just a folded coat that's seen more misery than you. You lie down and immediately regret it. The wooden slats creak. The straw shifts. Your back starts complaining. And you haven't even been still for a minute. There's a stove in the middle of the room. Cold. You're told it's only lit twice a day, and only if fuel is available. Fuel, in this case, means scraps of wood pulled from fences, furniture, or whatever's not nailed down tight enough. You don't ask questions. You just sit and shivering, staring at the wall, and wondering when someone's going to tell you what happens next. They don't. Outside, you hear the crack of boots on gravel. A whistle. More yelling. A dog barking. Someone coughs behind you, hard and wet and far too familiar. You realise you haven't eaten in nearly 2 days, and your stomach has stopped complaining. It's gone quiet, like it gave up too. At night, the guards do rounds. They shine flashlights into the barracks at random, yelling at anyone caught whispering, moving, or existing too loudly. You try to sleep, but between the itching, the cold, and the smell of 20 other unwashed men sharing a wooden box, it's more like a prison-sponsored endurance challenge. Lice show up by morning, not individually, as a colony. You find one crawling up your sleeve and flick it off before anyone notices. But they're here now. You've joined the club. Everyone scratches. All day. All night. Some guys try to burn them off with matches. Some just give up and accept the constant biting, like it's part of the daily schedule. You can't wash your clothes. There's no soap. No hot water. No will to live. You rotate them inside out once a week and call it hygiene. The guards don't care. The commandant doesn't care. No one cares. You are unarmed, unimportant, and increasingly unpleasant to be around. You catch your reflection in a piece of metal near the latrine, just for a second. Long enough to see the shape of your face, the hollow cheeks, the bruises under your eyes, the stubble that's grown in uneven and sad. You don't look like a soldier. You don't even look like yourself. Just another shaved, shivering question mark in a camp full of them. No one tells you how long you'll be here. There's no clock, no calendar. The days just melt together like wet bread, and every hour feels like a trick. The only thing you can be sure of anymore is that you're not in control. You have no weapon, no say, no choice. You eat when they let you. You sleep when they let you. And you scratch constantly. Because when they take your clothes, your papers, your name and your voice, all that's really left is the itch. You wake up to yelling again. Different day, same volume. The guard outside is already shouting in German, which you're pretty sure is just their default way of speaking. Loud, sharp, with just enough edge to suggest move faster or get hit. Someone near the stove tries to stretch but immediately regrets it. The room's not warm. It's just slightly less frozen than the outside. Then comes the whistle. Short, piercing. One blast, that's the signal. Today's not a work detail. Today's a relocation. Or, as it turns out, a forced march. Which sounds almost polite, like it's some organised event. Like you signed up for a sponsored hike through the countryside with rest stops and complimentary water. But no, this is walking as punishment. Walking as control. Walking because transportation is for people who still matter. You're told to line up outside. No time to grab anything except your coat, your boots, and whatever's stuffed into your pockets. Someone fumbles trying to lace their shoes. Too slow. Gets a rifle butt in the ribs for his trouble. You speed up. The snow's ankle deep. You hear it crunch with every step. A sound that would be pleasant in another life. Here, it's just noise layered over the groans and shuffling of 50 underfed men trying to remember how legs work. You start walking. No explanation. No destination. Just movement. You follow the man in front of you. He follows the man in front of him. Everyone's too tired to ask where you're going. You learn early not to look around too much. A wandering gaze can be mistaken for disobedience. And disobedience is a dangerous hobby. At first, your body protests, knees stiff, feet sore, hips grinding like old gears. But the guards don't slow down, so you adapt. Sort of. The pace isn't fast, but it's relentless. No breaks, no pauses. You walk until your muscles give up complaining and settle into silent resentment. The boots you were given weren't designed for this. They were barely designed for standing. The soles are paper thin. The stitching's already unravelling. After a couple of miles, you feel the blisters blooming. Hot spots along your heels. Then your toes. Then somewhere deeper, where your bones start whispering, "This was a mistake." The wind picks up. There's no protection. You pull your collar up, but it doesn't help. The wind cuts through the fabric like it's not even there. Your ears go numb. Your fingertips follow. You rub them against your thighs, trying to generate some kind of friction, but it's like lighting a match in a hurricane. Useless. Someone near the front starts coughing. Loud, wet, and constant. The kind of cough that makes you look away without thinking. The guards don't even react. They've heard it before. That cough doesn't get you out of the march. It just becomes part of the soundtrack. You keep walking. Time doesn't pass normally. You can't look at a watch. You don't have one. You just measure the day in how many times you want to collapse and how many toes you can still feel. The sun rises slowly, hangs above you like a bad idea, then disappears without warning. No lunch, no break. A single crust of bread handed out around midday. If you're lucky. Some days they forget, or they don't care. The column thins as the hours drag on. A guy in the back drops to his knees. No announcement, no scream. Just a soft grunt and the sound of snow catching a body. 2 guards drag him to the side of the road. You don't look. You've learned not to. One guy tries to help. Just an arm around the shoulder. A simple gesture. Noble, if you still believe in that sort of thing. The guards don't. They shove both of them forward, harder than before. The helper trips, stumbles, scrambles back into line. He doesn't try again. The path winds through forests, fields, towns that barely exist anymore. Rubble. Empty houses. Smoke still curling out of chimneys no one seems to be using. You wonder if civilians are hiding inside, watching the parade of prisoners through cracks in boarded-up windows, thinking, thank God it's not me. Your stomach starts folding in on itself by the third day. If it weren't for the cold, the hunger might be the worst part. It's not just emptiness. It's sharp. It's cruel. Like your body's chewing on itself for answers you don't have. Someone says they ate a handful of snow and found a bug in it. Didn't care. Called it extra protein. You laughed. Briefly. Then you did the same thing the next morning. You start losing count of the days. Sleep happens in barns, if you're lucky. Sometimes it's ditches. Sometimes it's just the side of the road, curled up in your coat, praying the next guard walking by doesn't take offence to the way you breathe. There's no blanket, no fire, just body heat if anyone's willing to share. They never are. The smell starts to follow you. It's not one thing. It's everything. Sweat, piss, old wounds, infection, fear. The human body in slow decline. You catch a whiff every time someone shifts, or sneezes, or tears open a blister on their heel. Your nose adjusts. It has to. There's no escaping it. You're the smell now. Every morning starts the same. A boot to the ribs. A whistle. Another stretch of road that looks exactly like the last one. Your legs burn. Your back aches. Your face is wind-chapped and raw. You stop feeling your fingers sometime after breakfast, if there was breakfast. You keep walking. Someone tries to escape on the 5th day. He waits for a curve in the road. A patch of woods. He bolts. Fast, but not fast enough. You don't see what happens. You just hear it. A yell. 2 shots. Silence. No one speaks for hours after that. By the end of the week, you're not marching. You're limping, trudging, dragging one foot behind the other while praying nothing gives out. A guy next to you is walking with a sock tied around his knee. Says it used to be a boot, but it fell apart. Now it's just a memory with laces. You pass another camp. You think maybe it's your destination. The guards bark orders. Everyone lines up. You get counted, inspected, judged. Then they point down the road and say one word. Waiter. Keep going. You don't even sigh. That would take too much effort? At this point, you've forgotten what rest feels like. You walk because that's what you do now. It's not a punishment. It's a condition. Your feet are raw. Your knees grind. Your ribs stick out like coat hangers. You dream of warmth, food, silence, and waking up without a foot covered in pus. You dream of anything but this, and you keep walking. Because if you stop, well, you already know what happens. They separate you from the group without warning. No time to think. 1 minute you're limping toward a line of shacks with everyone else. Next minute a guard grabs your arm and yanks you to the side like he's picking out expired meat. No explanation. Just a shove and a nod. And now it's you, alone, walking toward a building that doesn't look like it has any windows for a reason. You tell yourself it's probably nothing. Just paperwork. Roll call. Some kind of formality. But your stomach's already tied itself into a sailor's knot. They push you into a small room. It's grey, dimly lit. Concrete walls. A desk with a chair behind it and another one in front of it. The kind that wobbles when you sit. There's a single light bulb hanging above your head, like it's waiting to make bad things happen under it. You sit anyway, because standing feels like a risk you can't afford. Then you wait. And wait. And wait some more. The silence is the worst part. You can hear your heart thumping in your ears. You try to slow your breathing. Try not to look guilty, even though you're not sure what you're supposed to feel guilty about. Every scuff on the wall looks like it has a story. You tell yourself not to look nervous, but your leg's already bouncing like it has its own plan. Eventually someone walks in, not a soldier, not at first glance, no helmet, no rifle. Just a man in a coat, maybe mid-40s, with the face of someone who's had too many cups of bitter coffee and not enough reasons to smile. He doesn't yell. He doesn't sneer. He just pulls out the chair, sits down slowly and looks at you like you've just failed a test he didn't tell you about. He speaks English. Good English. Better than yours, probably. No accent thick enough to hide behind. His tone is casual, smooth, like a school principal who's just very disappointed in your behaviour. He calls you by name, full name, rank, serial number, home state, names of your unit commanders, dates of movement, locations you haven't mentioned to anyone here. He smiles politely. You try not to. You're not supposed to be scared. This isn't Gestapo level stuff. Not yet. This is military intelligence. Interrogation Light Edition. No broken fingers. No scream-in-your-face tactics. Just calm, quiet conversation designed to peel you open like a can of peaches. He asks how you're feeling. You say fine. He nods, pretends to believe you. Then he offers you a cigarette. You hesitate, he waits, you take it. Your hands shake a little as you light it. First real tobacco you've had in weeks. It tastes like suspicion and paper. He lights one too, leans back. Acts like this is a casual thing. Two guys chatting. Could be a bar. Could be a bus stop. Except there's a notebook on the desk, a pencil twitching in his hand, and a door behind you with a lock that clicks when it closes. Then he starts asking questions. Where were you stationed before you were captured? What kind of vehicles did your unit use? Who's your commanding officer? Where were you headed? What kind of supplies were you carrying? All of them delivered gently. Not barked, not forced, just slipped between puffs of smoke and subtle nods. You give the same answer every time. Name, rank, serial number. That's it. You repeat it like a chant, like a magic spell. Because that's what they told you to do. Anything else is treason. Or foolish. Or both. He doesn't argue. Just keeps asking. Same questions. Slightly reworded. Then a new one, just to see if you flinch. Then another. Casual curveballs. Thrown like he's bored. Mentions the name of someone from your unit. You don't react. At least you hope you don't. Inside, your spine goes ice cold. The goal isn't to beat you up. Not physically. Not yet. The goal is to wear you down. Let the silence make you nervous. Let the comfort make you sloppy. Let the fear crawl up your throat until something slips out without permission. You stare at the floor. Repeat your serial number. He jots something down. Then he changes the game. Starts asking about home. Mentions the name of your hometown, your high school, your baseball team. Asks if you ever dated a girl named Claire. Says he read it in a letter. You don't have to answer. You just sit there while the walls tighten and the floor tilts a little. You start wondering what else they know, what else they read, what else they might say tomorrow, or the day after, when you're even more tired than now. You ask for water. He gives it to you. It's warm, metallic, and makes your stomach turn. He watches you drink it. Then he thanks you for your time and leaves. Just like that. The door opens. A guard steps in. Motions for you to stand. You do. Your legs feel like they've been swapped out for broomsticks. You're led back to the barracks without a word. No one says what just happened. No one needs to. Back in the bunk, the others don't ask. They can see it in your face. The glazed eyes, the twitch in your jaw. That lingering static of someone who just played a game where the rules were invisible and the scoreboard wasn't yours. You lie down, your heart still racing. Your fingers smell like burnt paper. You try to sleep, but the questions echo. You start second-guessing yourself. Did you say too much? Did you say something wrong? Did a twitch give something away? Did he win? You don't know, and they never tell you. But the next day, someone else disappears into that same little room with the hanging light bulb and the pencil that never runs out of questions. And when he comes back, he looks just like you. The next move happens early. No warning, just boots in the mud, guards yelling, and that shrill whistle that now lives in your dreams. You're told to grab your things. All of them. Which is funny because your things now include a coat that doesn't fit, a pair of boots with one sole, and a piece of bread you've been hiding in your sock for 2 days. You grab them anyway. You're herded like livestock. Down the path, through a gate, past the tower with the guy holding the machine gun who never blinks. You don't ask questions. No one does. Asking gets you noticed, and getting noticed never ends well. The trucks are waiting. Flatbeds with high wooden sides and no seats. You climb in, packed shoulder to shoulder with the rest of your unit, or what's left of it. The engine roars to life, coughing diesel and desperation. You ride in silence, surrounded by men who've said everything worth saying 3 weeks ago. At some point, you stop feeling the bumps. Your body just absorbs them, like they're part of the background now. Hours later, the truck slows. You're unloaded. And there they are, the boxcars. Long, rectangular, and painted the kind of brown that looks like rust trying to give up. Iron wheels, heavy doors, no markings except for a few faded numbers that don't matter. You could be in France, Poland, Mars, no way to tell. It's just wood, cold air, and that pit in your stomach that somehow still manages to find new depths. The guards open one. A few guys in front of you glance inside and freeze for half a second. That's all it takes. A glance, a pause. Then you're pushed from behind. One by one, bodies start filing in. The boxcar swallows them like a bad idea. You follow, because not following means being the reason someone behind you gets hit. There are no seats, no light, no windows. Just a dark wooden rectangle that smells like mould, animal waste, and something worse underneath it all. The kind of smell that doesn't just hit you. It clings. It moves in. It makes a home behind your eyes and unpacks its bags in your throat. They pack you in tight. More than you thought possible. Then more than that. 60, 70, maybe more. There's no space, no air, no personal space. You're shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, mouth to someone else's back. When you breathe, you taste the sweat of the man in front of you. Someone jokes about sardines. No one laughs. The doors slam shut. Darkness drops like a curtain. Pitch black. Not can't see your hand dark. More like forget you even have a hand dark. The only light comes from the cracks in the wood. Thin slivers of daylight, like threads dangling in front of your face. You watch them flicker every time someone shifts. The train jolts forward. The floor lurches. Someone stumbles. A few guys fall. They don't bother getting back up. There's no room anyway. You brace yourself against the wall or against someone else's shoulder and pretend you've done this before. The temperature drops fast. Wood doesn't insulate, and no one gave you a blanket. Your coat barely covers your arms, let alone your legs. Your boots are wet again, though you're not sure how. Probably someone spilled their canteen or pissed themselves. You don't ask, you don't want to know. After a while, the cold stops stinging. It just settles in. Your hands stop moving. Your feet go quiet. Your breath fogs the air, joins the fog from the other 60 men crammed into the same box, all of you exhaling fear, exhaustion, and a little bit of whatever's left of your dignity. Someone coughs. Someone else groans. There's no toilet. Let's say that again. There is no toilet. And this train isn't stopping anytime soon. So the corner becomes the toilet, or one of the corners. No official designation. No guard comes in to explain how to relieve yourself in captivity. You just figure it out. You go when you can, where you can, as discreetly as possible. Which is to say, not discreetly at all. Soon the smell turns from bad to you'll never forget it. You cover your mouth with your sleeve. Not because it helps, just because it gives you something to do. Breathing is now a conscious effort. Inhale through your mouth. Hold it. Hope your stomach doesn't get ideas. A guy near the back starts crying. He tries to hide it, but there's no hiding anything here. The sobs echo against the walls, swallowed by the groaning of the train and the shuffle of boots. Someone mutters at him to shut up. Someone else says nothing and just keeps staring at the floor like it owes him money. The rest of you keep existing. Not living, just existing. Time vanishes again. There's no clock, no light shift, no meals. You have no idea if it's been 2 hours or 2 days. You nod off and jerk awake with someone's elbow in your ribs. Your legs cramp. Your spine goes numb. You can't stretch. Can't lie down. Can't do anything but wait and hope your bladder holds out. They throw bread in once. One chunk, hard as rock. It lands on the floor. Immediately someone goes for it. Then another. Then a third. No yelling. No fight. Just desperation in slow motion. You don't bother trying. Your legs won't cooperate anyway, and you wouldn't win. Eventually the train slows. Your ears catch the change in sound before your brain processes it. The rhythm of the tracks gets softer. The vibration in the floor eases. Then you hear voices. Boots, dogs barking again. A metal clang, then another. The door creaks open, sunlight, blinding. You flinch. Everyone does. Even the ones who are pretending to sleep. It's like staring into a flashbang. Eyes watering, skin tightening against the cold wind. You blink fast and squint out into the world like you're seeing it for the first time. Guards yell. Names are called, or numbers. It doesn't matter. You move when they point. You jump down from the boxcar and land in mud. Not dirt, not snow. Mud. The kind that sucks your boots under and makes you wonder if your feet are still attached when you lift them. You're not at your final destination. Just another stop. Another sorting station. Another checkpoint between bad and worse. But already your legs are shaking. Your knees don't bend properly. Your hands won't close all the way. And your stomach is chewing on itself. The train leaves without you. You watch it disappear down the tracks, like it's escaping. The boxcar, now empty, looks back at you for half a second, and you feel like it just survived something you didn't. You're told to form a line. No one says it nicely. The guards point, wave rifles, yell the usual commands. You're too tired to resist, too tired to care. Everyone just falls into place like falling is all they know how to do anymore. You'll march toward the gates. It doesn't look like much. Barbed wire fence, watchtowers, a couple of dogs pacing with handlers, a wooden guard post next to a gate made from iron bars and poor intentions. The camp is surrounded by empty fields and snow. No town, no people, just flat land, mud, and the wind. This is Stalag. Could be Stalag 7B. Could be Stalag Loft 4. They didn't tell you which. Doesn't matter. The layout's the same. Walls, wire, towers, and men who don't smile. You pass through the gate. The guards watch you like you're not quite human. Your inventory. More heads to count. Inside, it's worse. The barracks are low wooden buildings, lined up in rows. Windows boarded. Roofs patched with sheet metal. Smoke trickling from chimneys when there's anything left to burn. Most of the buildings sag to one side. You can smell rot in the air. Damp wood, old clothes, mould. There's mud everywhere. Not puddles, not wet dirt, just mud. Deep, sticky, constant. Your boots sink. If you stop moving for more than a few seconds, the ground starts pulling. They bring you to the main building. You're lined up again. This time for processing. It's different than last time, more formal. The guards inside don't yell as much. They don't need to. Everything here is already controlled. The shouting was for the road. Here, they just look at you, and you follow instructions. You're told to remove your coat, again, your shoes, again. They take anything with writing. Labels, tags, notes, anything with an American flag. The excuse is security. The reason is control. You're given a number. It's handwritten on a small paper tag, then rewritten in a ledger, then spoken out loud like it's been assigned to a piece of livestock. They tie it to your wrist with string. It's not official. It's not permanent. But it means something here. You're no longer Private Wilson or Sergeant Diaz. You're just a number. And when they want something from you, that's what they'll call. You're told the rules. Roll call twice a day. Food ration at morning and evening. No contact with guards unless spoken to. No smoking near fences. No fighting, no trading. No escape attempts. Punishment is immediate. You're allowed to write letters. They may or may not be sent. You may or may not get a reply. It depends on what the camp commandant decides that week. Then you're assigned to a block. The guards walk you there in silence. No small talk. No glances. You pass other prisoners along the way. Most don't look at you. Some glance. Just enough to know there's new arrivals. No one smiles. No one speaks unless they're spoken to. That stopped months ago. Your block is identical to the others. One long wooden room. Rows of bunks. 3-tiered. Wood frames. Thin pads stuffed with straw that fell apart sometime last winter. There's a stove at one end, cold and empty. No fuel, no fire. You're shown to an empty bunk. Top row, no ladder. You climb. There's no mattress. Just the wood. You sit. Your spine already hurts. You lie down for a minute. Dust rises. You cough. You wipe your face with a sleeve that's already wet from sweat and snow. The man in the bunk below you doesn't say hello. He's cleaning his boots with a scrap of cloth and not looking up. You ask how long he's been here. He says nothing. A few minutes later he says December. That's it. Someone else in the block coughs, hard. You hear the rattle in their chest. You know that sound. Everyone does now. A few men are lying down already, blankets over their heads. One of them isn't moving. No one's checking. You don't ask. There's a bucket near the stove. That's the latrine, for night use only. During the day you're supposed to use the trench, out behind the barracks. There's no privacy. There's no toilet paper. Just a plank, a hole, and some kind of rusted pipe that doesn't do anything. The bucket gets emptied in the morning. Sometimes. You're told not to drink from the well. The water's not clean. It was never clean. Some men still drink from it anyway. You're supposed to wait for mealtime. When you get a tin cup of something warm, it's not soup. It's not broth. It's not anything. Just hot water with grease floating on top. And maybe a root or two. That's lunch. Dinner's the same. Maybe bread. Maybe not. The first night, you don't sleep. Your body lies down, but your brain won't stop. You hear every creak, every cough, every snore, every movement outside. You don't know who's on watch. You don't know where the guards are. You don't know if the fences are electrified. You think about running. Then you think about dying. Then you stop thinking. At some point, morning happens. Someone opens the door, yells something in German. Everyone groans, pulls on boots, lines up outside. Roll call. Always outside, even in snow, even in wind. You stand for 20 minutes while names are read, then numbers, then a list of infractions, then silence. You're sent back inside. Some are chosen for work detail. Some stay behind. You're not picked. You sit in the bunk and wait. For food. For mail. For something. You scratch your arm. Lice. You check your boot. Blister. You stretch your fingers. They hurt. You stop talking. You stop asking. Because here nobody's listening. The barracks are not built for people. They're built to hold bodies upright in between roll calls. You notice this the first time you sit on your bunk and the slats creak like they're threatening to collapse. There's no insulation. The walls are thin enough that the wind cuts straight through the gaps in the boards. On cold nights, you wake up with frost on your blanket. On warm days, the smell inside becomes almost unbearable. The bunks are 3 tiers high. You're on the top. This seems like an advantage until you realise climbing up means putting your hands on other men's bedding. And everyone's bedding is damp. Damp from sweat, damp from snow tracked inside, damp from whatever leaks through the roof when it rains. You lie down, and the first thing you feel is the straw poking through the fabric. The second thing you feel is movement. Lice. Maybe fleas. You learn quickly to stop looking. Your roommates don't talk much at first. It's not that they're unfriendly. It's just that conversation is a luxury. Most men here are too tired to make small talk, and no one wants to hear where you were captured or how many days you spent in the boxcar. Everyone has the same story with a few different names and dates. After a few days, the silence becomes normal. The only sounds are coughing, boots on wood, and the occasional muttered curse when someone rolls over and hits their head on the next bunk. Food arrives twice a day, and calling it food is generous. Breakfast is usually a thin piece of bread. It's rough, grey, and tastes like sawdust mixed with old flour. Sometimes there's a smear of margarine if the guards are feeling generous. Most days, it's just bread. By the time it gets to you, it's hard and cold. You eat it anyway because the alternative is being hungry, which is worse. Dinner is a watery soup. It arrives in dented metal pots carried by another prisoner on work detail. It smells faintly like cabbage or potatoes, but mostly it smells like rust and burnt water. You get one ladleful. You drink it fast before it cools. Some guys lick the bowl afterward, just to make sure nothing's wasted. No one judges them. You'd do the same if you thought no one was watching. Hunger becomes a constant. It sits in your gut all day, sharp at first, then dull. After a week, you don't even feel full after a meal. You just feel less empty. Some prisoners trade anything for extra bread. Buttons, laces, even cigarettes from a Red Cross package, if they're lucky enough to get one. You start thinking about food the way people think about money. Who has it? Who doesn't? How to get more? The stove in the barracks barely works. When there's fuel, it's lit twice a day for maybe an hour. Everyone crowds around it. Not to get warm. No one actually gets warm, but to get slightly less cold. You rotate your hands near the heat until the skin starts to burn, then pull back, then repeat. The moment the stove goes out, the room feels colder than before. Hygiene is almost non-existent. There's one bucket of water for washing in the morning. It's icy and filthy by the time it gets to you. You splash it on your face, rub your hands, and call it a bath. Showers are rare, maybe once every few weeks. When they happen, it's in a cement room with pipes that spit freezing water for 30 seconds. You step in, shiver violently, step out, and try not to think about how dirty you still feel. Everyone smells. You do too. You just stop noticing after a while. The lice never leave. They live in the seams of your shirt, in your blanket, in the straw of the bunk. You scratch until your skin is raw. Some men heat a spoon and press it to their clothing to burn the bugs out. Others just give up. You stop caring after a while. It's just another thing you can't control. Your bunkmates are a mix of nationalities. A British pilot who barely speaks. A Canadian who talks too much about hockey. A kid from Ohio who can't be older than 19 and shakes every time there's a loud noise. You don't ask their stories. You already know the outlines. Captured, processed, dumped here to wait for the war to decide what happens next. Some are bitter, some are silent. One guy prays every night, whispering under his breath like it's the only thing keeping him upright. The guards come in at random. They check bunks, count bodies, look for contraband. Contraband is anything they decide it is that day. Sometimes they take nothing. Sometimes they take someone's only blanket, just to prove they can. You learn to keep your head down and avoid eye contact. If they can't remember your face, you're doing something right. Night is the hardest part. The room gets colder, quieter, and darker. There are no lights except for the thin cracks in the wood where the guard tower beams sweep across every hour or so. You lie there listening to the breathing of the men around you. Slow, heavy, restless. Someone always coughs. Someone always mutters in their sleep. You roll over and try to find a position where the straw doesn't dig into your spine. It never works. Sleep comes in short bursts. You wake every time someone moves, or when a rat scurries across the floor, or when your own body cramps from lying too still. You start counting the hours until morning, even though morning just means roll call and another day of the same. There's no difference between today and tomorrow except how cold it is. The boredom eats at you. There's nothing to do but wait. Some men carve small marks into the wooden bunks to track days. Some hum to themselves. Others just stare at the wall. The camp doesn't provide books, cards, or anything resembling entertainment. You make games out of scraps, guessing how long until the next guard enters, or betting who will cough first after lights out. You lose track of time anyway. Days and nights blur together until you can't tell if it's been a week or a month. The barracks aren't just uncomfortable, they're dangerous. The damp wood breeds sickness. Men start developing sores. Some get fevers. The medical help here is non-existent. There's a so-called infirmary, but it's just a room with a cot and someone who hands out aspirin like it's a miracle cure. If you get sick, you either get better on your own or you don't. You watch a man in the next bunk cough himself into silence over 3 nights. They carry him out before dawn. No one says his name again. Your routine becomes mechanical. Wake up to yelling. Stand in line for roll call. Eat a crust of bread. Wait for something to happen. Scratch. Sit on the edge of the bunk. Watch the door. Drink soup at dusk. Go to bed. Repeat. The only thing that changes is which guard happens to be in a bad mood that day. By the end of the first week, you don't bother hoping for better conditions. You just hope for the day to end faster. There is a latrine, if you can call it that. It's a long wooden shack behind the barracks, next to the wire fence. From a distance, it looks like an oversized tool shed with holes punched in the roof. Up close, it smells like every bad decision made in the last 6 months. You start smelling it long before you reach the door. By the time you step inside, it's already too late. There are no stalls, no privacy, just a row of wooden benches with holes cut into them. 6 across, shoulder to shoulder. No walls between, no curtain. If you're modest, you get over that quickly. There's no dignity left to protect. You pull your pants down, sit, and try not to breathe through your nose. There's no plumbing, no flush. Just a pit underneath the bench, deep enough to hold months of waste, not deep enough to hide the smell. You don't want to look down, but your eyes do it anyway. The pit is full, more than full. You can hear flies buzzing before you even sit down. Some land on your arm. You brush them away. They come back. Toilet paper doesn't exist here. Sometimes there are torn pages from old German newspapers. If not, you use whatever you can find. Scraps of cloth, pine needles, your own sleeve if things are bad enough. Nobody laughs about it. Nobody talks about it. You just do what you have to and move on. During the day, you wait in line outside the latrine. There's no schedule, no rotation. Just whoever can't hold it anymore standing in the mud, trying to look casual. In winter, the wait is worse. Cold air, stiff fingers, and the constant threat of frostbite make everything harder. You try not to step in the wrong spot near the entrance. The ground is saturated with things no one should step in. At night, it's different. You're not supposed to go to the latrine after lights out. The guards don't like it. The towers have spotlights and guns, and mistakes get made on purpose. If you're caught outside, they assume you're escaping, even if you're just trying not to wet your bunk. So at night, you use the bucket. The bucket sits near the stove. Everyone shares it. No lid, no handle. Just a dented metal pail that was probably used for soup once, long ago, before someone gave up pretending this camp had standards. The bucket fills up fast. No one wants to empty it. Eventually someone is ordered to. Usually the new guy. You wait for him to spill it. He always does. The smell in the barracks gets worse at night. You bury your nose in your sleeve, but the stink seeps in anyway. You can't sleep. You turn your face toward a wall and try to pretend you're somewhere else. It doesn't work. Some prisoners develop infections, skin sores, bladder issues, rectal bleeding from wiping with rough materials. There's no treatment. If it gets bad, you get moved to the infirmary, which is just another shack with fewer beds and the same bucket system. If it gets worse, they stop moving you altogether. You try and avoid using the latrine as long as possible. Some men hold it for hours, sometimes all day. Then the cramps come, then the shakes. Eventually you go because the alternative is worse. And when you come back, you feel no relief, just emptier. The guards don't use the same latrines. They have their own somewhere else, cleaner, covered, probably with an actual door. You hear stories about it, but never see it. It's just one more reminder that the rules only apply to people at the bottom of the chain. Occasionally, the camp staff assign prisoners to clean the latrines. They use buckets of cold water and long-handled brushes. The brushes are worn down to stumps. The water freezes before it makes a difference. They scrub anyway, the smell never leaves. The men who clean them come back with the stink soaked into their clothes and hands. You try not to sit too close to them during meals. The floor of the latrine is always wet. You don't ask why. You learn to step carefully. One bad slip and you fall into history's worst puddle. That's happened before. A guy from the British side lost his balance, went down face first. He didn't come out of his bunk for 2 days after. No one spoke to him. Not out of cruelty, just survival. You can't carry someone else's humiliation on top of your own. In summer, it gets worse. The heat brings more flies, more smell. The latrine becomes unbearable after midday. You rush in, do what you have to, and get out. If you linger, you vomit. Some do. The guards laugh. You think about home sometimes. Clean bathrooms, porcelain, running water, a flush that takes everything away. You remember closing the door, locking it, sitting down without fear of splinters or disease. You thought nothing of it then. You think of it all the time now. But here, the latrine is just another reminder. You're not in control, not of where you eat, not of where you sleep, not of where you go when your body turns against you. Every basic need is now a challenge. Every trip to the toilet is a negotiation. You get used to it, not comfortable, just numb, like everything else here. There are 2 meals a day. They don't change. You stop looking forward to them after the first week. Then you stop looking at them. After that, you just eat. Breakfast usually arrives in a crate. It's a loaf of bread split between too many men. The bread is grey. Not grey from age. Grey from ingredients. It's made of rye, barley, potato peels, and filler. The filler could be anything. Some days it's sawdust. Some days it's ground acorns. One guy swore he found a feather baked into his slice. No one argued. It crumbles when it's dry. It bends when it's wet. It tastes like something scraped off the floor of a mill. You learn to chew slowly. The edges are sharp. The centre's gluey. If you eat too fast, you choke. If you eat too slow, someone else might ask for a bite. You get 1 piece. That's your ration. About the size of your palm. If you have big hands, too bad. The cut's the same for everyone. Sometimes you're allowed margarine. It's grey too. Or yellowish, like it used to be food, and then changed its mind. You spread it with your finger because no one has a knife. Then you lick your finger. You don't waste anything. Lunch is nothing. There is no lunch. Dinner is soup. That's the word they use. What they give you is water with things floating in it. Sometimes cabbage. Sometimes potatoes. Sometimes just grease. You can see the surface shimmer. That's not flavour. That's fat someone scraped from the bottom of a barrel and diluted. They serve it in dented metal cans. No bowls, no spoons. You sip it fast, then wipe your mouth with your sleeve. If there are solids in the soup, it's a good day. You might get a piece of carrot, a bean, a shred of meat. You don't ask what kind. You eat it. If it has texture, you chew. If it doesn't, you swallow and move on. The distribution is done by work detail. Prisoners carry the pots from the cookhouse. A separate shack with smoke-stained walls and the smell of rotting vegetables. The men in the cookhouse don't talk much. They're always covered in grease. Their boots leave tracks. You try not to think about how many meals have been spilled and scraped back up. There are no seconds. Once it's gone, it's gone. If the pot comes up short, someone doesn't eat. The guards don't care who. The men serving have to decide. You watch the line. You count bodies. You try not to end up last. Some men trade for more food. Cigarettes, buttons, thread, socks, anything with value. A small crust of bread can go for the price of an entire Red Cross parcel, if you're desperate. And most people are. Hunger makes you stupid. It makes you lie. It makes you hoard. The stomach cramps start early. First week, maybe second. You go to bed hungry, you wake up hungrier. By the third week, your body gets quiet. It stops asking. You lose weight in your arms, your legs, your face. Your belt moves 3 holes over. If you had a mirror, you wouldn't recognise yourself. Some guys chew leather. Boots, straps, gloves. Not to eat, just to fool their stomach. You see teeth marks on bunk rails. You see splinters in gums. A few men boil twigs in hot water and drink it like tea. It's not, but it fills the space. Once in a while, there's a Red Cross package. Not for everyone, just a few. Inside, chocolate, sugar, coffee, tinned meat, real bread. It's like opening a box from another planet. You hold the chocolate and stare at it before eating. You let it melt in your mouth so it lasts longer. Then you regret it, because it's gone. Nothing replaces it. Some men save their Red Cross food. They hide it under straw. They nibble it piece by piece. Others eat it all in one go. Then they get sick. Their bodies aren't ready. It doesn't matter. They do it again. Hunger makes people different. Some get quiet, some get angry. Some just stare at the wall like food used to exist, and they're trying to remember what it felt like. You don't talk about being hungry. Everyone is. It's like complaining about air. There's no variety. No seasoning. No change. One night, the soup was thicker. Everyone got excited. Turns out someone dropped a sack of flour into the pot. The guards didn't notice. The next day, it was back to water. Nobody said anything. Food poisoning happens. A few men went blind from bad meat last winter. Others just vomited until they couldn't anymore. You eat carefully now. You sniff your ration. You chew slowly. You try to notice when something tastes off. You don't always succeed. You hear rumours about other camps, better food, more Red Cross boxes, black bread instead of grey. One guy said a friend in another camp got boiled eggs every Sunday. No one believes him, but everyone listens. Hope is in short supply, even fake hope. Sometimes you dream about food, not feasts, just real things. An apple, a slice of pie, a hot plate of something cooked by someone who wanted you to enjoy it. You wake up with your mouth dry and your stomach turning. Then you sit up, take your soup ration, and do it all again. The food won't kill you quickly, but it will wear you down. It'll strip away weight, patience, and the part of your mind that used to think about anything else. And the worst part, you get used to it. There's a mail system, technically. Once every few weeks, a guard comes into the barracks carrying a bundle of papers. He calls out names, last name, first initial. If you hear yours, you step forward. If you don't, you stay still. No questions, no complaints. Most days there's nothing for you. When your name does come up, it feels strange. You move toward the front, not smiling, just cautious. The guard hands you a folded piece of paper. Sometimes it's an envelope, but usually not. The paper is thin and smells like smoke. You hold it for a second before opening it. You wait to be sure it's not a mistake. Then you read. The handwriting is familiar. Slanted. Clean. The words are simple. No details. Just small updates from home. Someone's dog had puppies. Your sister moved to a different house. The neighbour's boy got drafted. Your father is still fixing cars. Your mother says she prays for you every day. The letters never mention fear. Never mention death. They're carefully edited by people who don't know how bad it is or don't want to admit it. Sometimes whole lines are missing. Blacked out. You see the censor's pen strokes. A sentence about where someone works. A detail about a local newspaper. Anything that might, in theory, compromise security. The letters are hollowed out before they reach you. You read the whole thing slowly. Then you read it again. Then you fold it and put it in your shirt pocket. Later, you read it a third time. Eventually, you stop reading it and just carry it. Some guys sleep with their letters in their hand. Others tuck them in the lining of their coat like a kind of armour. If it's good news, you think about it all night. If it's bad, you try not to think about it at all. You're allowed to write back, not often. 1 page, limited space. You're told what you can't say. No location, no complaints, no mention of conditions, no talk of guards, no reference to rations or disease or weather. The form is printed in multiple languages. You write in pencil, on lines that barely fit your handwriting. You say you're well. You say you're safe. You ask for news. You pretend that things are normal. You say, "Tell Danny I miss him," or "I hope the baby's doing fine." You don't say, "I've been eating mouldy cabbage and watching men die in bunks." That part stays in your head. Once finished, you turn it in. The guard doesn't read it, not then. Someone else will. It gets passed along, copied, screened, reviewed, and maybe, if everything goes right, delivered. If your family gets it, they're supposed to write back. If they don't, you wait anyway. Mail doesn't follow a schedule. Some weeks it comes. Some weeks it doesn't. No one knows why. There's no explanation, no apology. A storm could stop it. A clerical error. A destroyed railcar. Or maybe no one back home wrote. You tell yourself it's a delay. You don't consider the other options. Sometimes you see guys reading the same letter for the 100th time. The folds are worn. The ink is smudged. They run their finger along the signature. They stare at the last sentence. They don't cry. Not usually. They just go quiet for a while. If you never get mail, it's worse. You start thinking you've been forgotten. You think maybe the letter got lost. Then you think maybe the person never sent it. Maybe they tried. Maybe they didn't. You'll never know. Mail call becomes a ritual. A moment in the week where something might change. Some kind of message might arrive to prove the world still exists outside the wire. When nothing comes, everyone shifts back into place and keeps going. Like nothing happened. Like they weren't hoping. Red Cross parcels are different. Bigger, heavier, rarer. Sometimes they arrive with the mail, sometimes not. They're marked with names, but occasionally handed out at random. Guards decide who gets what. You hear stories about packages being opened before they get here. Cigarettes missing. Chocolate gone. Soap replaced with a note. You write about the parcels in your next letter anyway. You say thank you, even if you didn't get it. Even if the contents were stolen. Because admitting you're starving doesn't get the mail through faster. Eventually, letters stop being about news. They become evidence. That someone remembers you. That the outside world still knows your name. You hold on to them fold them carefully and keep them near. A few men try to memorize every word. Others read until the paper starts to tear, then stop, afraid they'll destroy the only connection they have. The guards never say what happens to undelivered mail. You assume it piles up somewhere, or gets burned. You hope someone read yours before that happened. You imagine someone back home waiting for your letter, checking the mailbox every day. You imagine them wondering where you are, if you're still alive. If the last message was your last one, you think about writing again, but they haven't written back, so you don't. You don't get a choice. Work detail isn't optional. It's scheduled, assigned, and enforced. Every morning, after roll call, the guards read off names. If yours is called, you step out of line and report to the front. If it's not, you stand there until the list is finished. Then you go back to the barracks and wait for the next one. You're assigned to a labour commando. That's what they call the groups. Each one has a number. You're not told what the number means. It could be the location. It could be the task. It doesn't matter. You memorise it because forgetting gets you punished. You leave camp under armed escort. The guards walk with rifles slung across their backs. Some carry pistols. Most don't say a word. If they do, it's short and sharp. You march in silence. No talking, no noise. You move through frozen fields, along broken roads, past villages that look half abandoned. Nobody waves. Nobody helps. Some people watch from their windows and then look away. Your work site is a sawmill. Could be a rail yard, a quarry, a farm, a warehouse. Assignments rotate. None of them are good. At the mill you're handed tools, a dull saw, a rusted axe, a wheelbarrow with a cracked wheel. The foreman points, then walks away. You start stacking lumber, moving logs, chopping kindling. It's not skilled work. It's just endless. Heavy, cold, repetitive. You're not paid. You don't get extra rations. Sometimes the foreman gives you a piece of bread or a cigarette if you work fast. You say thank you and take it, even if you're not sure it's bread. Even if the cigarette is already half smoked. Because in a place where nothing changes, a crumb is currency. Your hands go numb by mid-morning. You stop feeling the axe handle. You hit your thumb more than once. You keep swinging. If you drop your tool, the guard notices. If you stop to rest, they watch you harder. There's always the risk they'll make an example out of someone. You try not to be the reason. The worst part is the silence. Hours of movement with no conversation. You're surrounded by men, but no one talks. Everyone's focused on staying upright, on keeping warm, on not drawing attention. You lose track of time. You only know the day's half over when your stomach starts hurting again. Lunch is a break only in theory. There's no real food. Maybe a ladle of soup if they brought it. Maybe not. Sometimes you just sit on the ground, shivering, and eat the piece of bread you hid in your sleeve from breakfast. You chew slowly and count the bites. You don't share. No one does. Some days someone collapses. Back gave out, knee locked, fever too high. The guards yell first, then they threaten. If the man doesn't get up, he gets left behind. You've seen it. A guy passed out on the floor of the warehouse. The guard stepped over him. Nobody carried him back. You keep working. By the end of the day, your back hurts. Your arms are dead. Your feet feel like they're full of gravel. You line up again and march back to camp. No one talks on the way. You're too tired. Someone always limps. Someone always vomits halfway there. You don't stop. At the gate, you're counted again. If the number doesn't match, they search the group. If it still doesn't match, they search again. You stand still while they yell and shove. Eventually they move on. You're allowed back inside. Dinner's the same soup. You sit on your bunk and drink it in silence. The same man who collapsed is still lying in the infirmary. You don't ask what happened. No one knows his name. You fall asleep with your clothes on. Boots too, if it's your turn for early call tomorrow. You wake up sore, but it doesn't matter. The next day, you'll do it again. And the next. And the next. You forget what it was like to wake up and not be expected to lift something until your body fails. You forget what it was like to stop moving without being yelled at. Work detail doesn't break you all at once. It's slower. A dull pressure that erodes your will by degrees. Eventually you stop asking when it ends. You just hope tomorrow's not the day your name gets read again. Red Cross parcels exist. That much is true. You've seen them. You've touched one once. But getting one is rare. It's not a right. It's not regular. It's not fair. It's a lottery with unclear rules and no posted results. The parcels come from Switzerland. Or London. Or somewhere else. They're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to reach every registered POW. That's the idea. That's what the Geneva Convention says. But in practice, they show up when they show up. If they do at all. And when they do, the camp staff decides what happens next. Sometimes a full crate arrives. Other times, just one box. The guards open the packages first. That's routine. They inspect everything. For contraband, for code, for tobacco, for anything worth keeping. It's not subtle. They tear through the contents with knives or bayonets, then repack it like nothing happened. The contents always lighter after that. You line up at mail call hoping your name is on the list. Sometimes it is. Most of the time, it isn't. If your name's called, you walk up and take what's left. A cardboard box about the size of a shoebox. You don't smile. You don't say anything. You just carry it back to your bunk like it weighs more than it does. Inside the box, food, real food, a tin of Spam, a can of powdered milk, some biscuits, a chocolate bar if it hasn't been taken, sometimes tea, sometimes powdered soup mix, occasionally sardines. There's also soap, maybe razor blades, a packet of sugar, a pack of cigarettes with a familiar brand logo you haven't seen in weeks. It's not a feast, but it's enough to matter, enough to shake your routine. The Spam is heavy, greasy, and perfect. You eat it slowly, scraping the last bits from the can with your finger. If you're smart, you don't eat the whole thing at once. You ration it. A spoonful in the morning. A spoonful before bed. If you're not smart, you eat it in one sitting, feel full for the first time in weeks, and hate yourself when it's gone. The chocolate is gold. You don't eat it right away. You hold it. You smell it. You imagine biting into it. Some men hide it under their bedding. Some break it into tiny squares and make it last a week. Some trade it for a favour. A boot repair. An extra blanket. A pair of socks. It's worth more than money in this place. The cigarettes are currency. You don't smoke? Someone else does. They'll trade for anything. Half a ration of bread, a patch of cloth, news from another block. One cigarette can buy warmth or silence. It can get you a seat near the stove, or a spoonful of margarine. You learn the system fast. If you're lucky, the soap is still in the box. Not always. Sometimes it's gone before the parcel gets to you. When it's there, you don't waste it. You cut it into small chunks. Use it sparingly. Wash your hands once. Wash your shirt collar. Try to kill the lice that are now permanent residents of your coat. Some men don't get a parcel at all, ever. No family, no contact, lost paperwork, wrong address, doesn't matter why. They watch from the sidelines as others unwrap their boxes. They don't ask for anything. They don't complain. They just look away when the chocolate appears. If you have extras, you're expected to share. You're not required to. No one enforces it. But if you hoard too openly, you make enemies. If you share too much, you get nothing for yourself. So you walk a line. You give a little. You hold on to most. You pretend not to see the man 2 bunks down, staring at your tin of meat like it's the last food on earth. There are rules, unspoken but understood. Don't eat the whole box in one day. Don't brag about what you got. Don't trade with guards. Don't ask someone how they got to when you got none. And whatever you do, don't mention the parcels to anyone who hasn't had one in a while. It's easier to survive without resentment. Once the contents are gone, you keep the box. You flatten it. Use it as insulation. Cut it into soles for your shoes. Fold it into dividers for your shelf space. It's clean cardboard, and in this place, that's more useful than you'd think. There's talk about camps where parcels come weekly. Nobody believes it. You hear stories about men getting packages from home, handwritten notes, cookies, new socks. It sounds made up, but it spreads. The idea sticks. That somewhere, someone's getting more than you are. The guards don't care. They deliver what they're told to, and keep what they can get away with. You learn quickly that anything not nailed down will disappear if you leave it out too long, including your box, your chocolate, or your matches. When another parcel shipment arrives, the camp quiets down for an hour. Everyone's listening, waiting, hoping to hear their name again. When you don't, you go back to your bunk. Same soup, same bread, same day. And you try not to think about the tin of spam you ate too fast last week. Winter comes early. You feel it before it shows up. The wind shifts. The barracks floor stays cold all day. The water in the bucket near the stove starts icing over. You wake up with your blanket stiff. Not from moisture. From frost. The camp doesn't prepare for winter. There's no weatherproofing. No insulation. The windows stay cracked. The walls let air through. The roof leaks in places. You stuff straw into the gaps, but it falls out when the wind picks up. There is no winter clothing distribution. You get the same coat you arrived in, maybe a second layer if you found one on a dead man's bunk, before the guards cleared it out. You wear your clothes constantly. You sleep in them. You never take them off. That helps a little, but not enough. Boots are the worst part. They're thin and worn through. No lining. No grip. The soles split, then freeze. Snow gets in, then turns to water, then turns to ice. Your socks stay wet. You try drying them near the stove, but there's never enough time or heat. Eventually you stop trying. You just put them back on and wait for your toes to go numb again. Frostbite creeps in slowly. First your fingertips, then your heels, your ears. You don't notice at first, you just think they're cold. Then they stop hurting, then they turn purple. If you're lucky, they go numb and stay numb. If you're not, they blister and crack. Open sores become infected. You show them to the medic. He nods, gives you a bandage. That's the whole treatment. You hear stories of men losing fingers, a few toes. One guy got his nose frozen solid. It turned black. A guard made a joke about it. The guy didn't respond. He just pulled his scarf tighter and kept walking. Bathing stops completely. There's no warm water, no clean space. Even if there were, you'd freeze trying to dry off. So the dirt builds. The sweat from days of work gets layered with the grime from the floor, the grease from soup, the smoke from the stove. Eventually your skin just stops reacting. You smell like everyone else. The fleas never go away. They get worse in winter. They live in the straw. They live in the seams of your shirt. They feed constantly. You scratch until you bleed, then scratch some more. The bites swell. They scab over. You scratch them again. Some guys dig at their arms in their sleep. You wake up to blood under your fingernails and a patch of skin missing from your thigh. The lice are worse. You feel them crawling under your collar, around your waist, behind your ears. You pull your shirt tight and hope it squeezes them to death. It doesn't. They just wait. You shake your blanket out every morning. It doesn't help. You start feeling them in places where they probably aren't. But maybe they are. No one's checking. Sometimes the guards burn the barracks bedding. Call it sanitation. They take all the straw out, set it on fire, then bring in a new pile. You cheer for 5 minutes. Then the new straw arrives and it's already infested. The cycle resets. There are no clean clothes. You rotate the same shirt and pants. Turn them inside out. Shake them out. Brush them with your hands. You try not to look at the inside of the collar. It's black with oil and blood. You stop noticing the smell. Everyone smells like this now. The odour belongs to the camp. When it snows, the camp goes quiet. Footsteps get muffled. The guards stop pacing as much. Everyone walks slower. The cold eats into the wood. The bunks creak less. The wind whistles through every crack in the barracks. Some nights it's louder than anything else. You sleep with your knees pulled to your chest. Your boots still on. You wrap your blanket around your face, but it doesn't cover everything. You wake up with your lips cracked, nose bleeding, hands locked into claws until you flex them open again. The stove runs twice a day if there's fuel. For 1 hour. Everyone crowds around it. You hold your hands out. Too close and your skin blisters. Too far and you don't feel anything. Someone always burns themselves trying to stretch that last inch of warmth. It's never enough. You get sick. Everyone does. Coughs, chills, shaking hands. No one rests. There's no such thing as time off. If you can stand, you go to roll call. If you can't, someone else stands in your place. If they don't match the head count, you all get punished. The infirmary is a wooden shed with 2 beds and no heat. The medic has aspirin and rags, maybe iodine. You lie on the cot, shaking, hoping the fever breaks. If it doesn't, you get moved to the corner. If you don't make it through the night, they take your blanket and give it to someone else. You try to stay dry. That's the rule. Wet means frozen. You avoid puddles, but they're everywhere. Near the latrine, around the fence, inside the barracks. Someone spills their soup. It freezes by morning. You step in it. Your sock soaks through. That foot goes numb. Now you're watching it every day to see if the colour changes. You see sunlight maybe 2 hours a day. The rest is grey, or black, or white if it's snowing. There's no warm light. Just haze and shadows and the glow of the guard towers at night. Winter is the part that breaks you slowly. You don't even notice at first. Then one day your body stops shaking and you realise that's not a good sign. You can't feel your nose. Your breath isn't fogging anymore. You try to care. You try to do something. But the cold is louder than everything else. And you still have weeks to go. You don't realise how bad it's getting until you start forgetting what day it is. Then you forget what month it is. Then you stop asking. There's no calendar in the barracks, no clocks. Time gets measured in bread rations and roll calls. You know it's morning when the door opens and someone yells. You know it's evening when the soup ladle scrapes the bottom of the pot. That's it. Everything else is guesswork. The boredom isn't regular boredom. It's not just having nothing to do. It's what happens when every hour feels like the one before it, when every day runs together and you stop expecting anything to change. When you stop expecting anything at all. There's nothing to read, no paper, no books. If someone gets a newspaper with a Red Cross package, it's weeks old and in another language. You pass it around anyway, looking at photos or pretending you can decipher something. It's better than staring at the wall. Most men sit. Some lie down. Some carve lines into the bunkwood. Some mumble to themselves. Some tap patterns with their fingers. Not a song, just a pattern. Some count steps across the room, back and forth, until they lose count and start again. You think about home too often. At first it's details. Faces, streets, voices. Then it turns into questions. What are they doing now? What if they moved? What if they stopped waiting? What if they think you're already dead? Fear is everywhere, but it's quiet. You don't scream. You don't panic. You just start thinking in worst-case scenarios by default. What if you never leave? What if this war ends and they forget you're still here? What if the next guard in a bad mood picks you? You sleep, but badly. The barracks are full of sounds at night. Coughing, shifting, muffled groans. A lot of men grind their teeth. You hear it in the dark. A sharp, dry scraping from somewhere in the room. Sometimes it's two men at once. Sometimes it's you. There are nightmares. Some loud. Some silent. One guy wakes up swinging every night. Another curls into a ball and sobs. No one wakes them. You just wait for them to stop and then roll over. You've learned there's nothing you can say to fix it. Talking gets dangerous. Not because someone's listening, but because if you talk about what's happening, it makes it real. If you joke too much, people start thinking you've snapped. If you complain too much, they stop listening. So you say less. Eventually, you stop saying anything that's not necessary. Some men go quiet entirely. Not out of discipline. They just stop participating. They sit on the edge of their bunk and stare. You ask them something and they blink like they didn't hear. Later they might respond. Or not. They're not crazy, just empty. A few write letters to no one. They don't mail them. They fold them and tuck them under their mattress or in their shirt. You find one once. It was addressed to a name that didn't match the tag on the man's uniform. You don't say anything. The worst part isn't fear, it's hopelessness. You know what fear is? Getting captured, interrogated, put in the boxcar. But that's over. Now it's something else. You don't worry about dying quickly. You worry about being forgotten slowly. You watch the gate sometimes, hoping for change. A Red Cross truck. A list of names for exchange. A shift in the guard's behaviour. Anything. You never see it. So you go back inside, sit down, and stare at the same spot on the floor you stared at yesterday. You get used to keeping your mind on a short leash. You don't let it wander too far, because when it does, it usually goes to the worst place possible. That's when the panic creeps in. Not fast, just a slow rise in your chest that doesn't go away. Some guys pray, quietly, alone. A few whisper before bed. Others mutter while walking. It's not about religion anymore. It's habit. It's structure. One man quotes verses while sharpening a stick into a point. Not for anything, just to keep his hands busy. You learn to expect bad news. That's safer than hoping for anything else. When the mail comes, you brace for disappointment. When someone dies, you don't ask why. When the guards change shifts, you don't look up. You don't want eye contact. You don't want recognition. You start measuring your survival in mental terms. How long you can go without breaking routine. How many days without thinking about escape? How many hours without thinking about what you've lost? You know who's slipping. You can see it. You know who might crack soon. You avoid them. Not out of cruelty. You just can't afford it. Their collapse might become your problem, and you're already carrying too much. Eventually, you become someone else. Not the man you were when you arrived. That man asked questions, laughed sometimes, thought about what he'd do after the war. Now you just think about soup, about warmth, about sleep. You don't notice when your own thoughts change. You only notice that nothing surprises you anymore. That you don't flinch when a man collapses. That you don't react when someone says he can't take it anymore. You just sit still and wait for the noise to stop. And most of the time it does. The guards run everything. Not just the gate and the rules, the atmosphere. One bad guard can ruin a whole week. One decent one can make 5 minutes tolerable. You don't trust either type. Some guards are silent. They walk the perimeter, do head counts, take notes, then disappear. You prefer those. They're predictable. They don't talk. They don't yell. And most importantly, they don't improvise. Others are more involved. They bark orders. They make jokes you're not supposed to laugh at. Some hit first and explain later. A few have favourites. If you're not one of them, stay invisible. If you are one of them, it's worse. Because everyone else knows, and they won't forget. Punishment depends on the mood, not the offence. You could get yelled at for sneezing too loud, or ignored for skipping a line. You try to guess which kind of day it is, based on how fast the boots are moving in the snow. It doesn't help. You get it wrong anyway. Then there are the games. Not fun games. Not cards or dice. Psychological ones. Guards will offer cigarettes in exchange for information. They'll pretend to be your friend, speak English, ask about your unit, ask who your officers were. You learn quick. If they're being nice, they want something. They also pit you against each other. They reward small favours with bread or tobacco. Not enough to live on, just enough to divide the room. Men start watching each other more closely. Some take notes, some whisper. Most stay quiet and hope they're not next. Grudges form fast. You get blamed for things you didn't do. You get punished for things you didn't say. You keep your mouth shut anyway, because arguing just gets you noticed. And being noticed is never a good thing in a place like this. Inside the barracks, the social structure shifts all the time. There are no ranks here. Officers are supposed to be separated, but that doesn't always happen. If they are, it doesn't help much. Respect doesn't last long when everyone's cold, starving, and stuck. Some men try to lead, organise things, set rules. Most give up after a week or two. Authority here isn't enforced, it's tolerated, and it only lasts as long as people agree it helps them. Once it doesn't, it disappears. There are arguments over blankets, over food, over space. Someone took the wrong bread slice. Someone used the bucket and didn't empty it. Someone borrowed a coat and didn't return it. These things matter more than they should, because there's nothing else to think about. Fights happen, not often. There's no energy for real violence, but men snap. Someone pushes. Someone shoves back. Then it ends. Usually one punch, maybe two, then silence again. Alliances form slowly. You trust the guy who gave you part of his bread last week. You don't trust the guy who won't meet your eyes. You remember who helped you when your foot was infected. You remember who looked away when the guard singled you out. Information is currency. News from another part of the camp. A rumour about an upcoming transfer. A whisper that the war is turning. No one knows if it's true, but everyone listens. It breaks up the routine. It gives you a sentence to repeat to yourself until something else happens. If someone escapes, everything locks down. Everyone gets punished. The guards search bunks. They count again and again. They yell louder. You learn to hate the escapee, even as part of you envies him. You think, if he made it, maybe I could too. Then you remember what happened the last time someone tried. Dogs, bullets, silence. You start watching people more closely. How they eat, how they walk, who they sit with, who they avoid. You notice who's still shaving with a scrap of metal and who stopped bothering. You know who's about to break a week before it happens. Some prisoners become the camp storytellers. Not professionally, just by default. They have stories from before the war, or jokes, or they can mimic accents. They talk just enough to distract the rest of you for 10 minutes. Then they stop. Nobody applauds. You all just sit there, a little quieter than before. Humour exists, but it's narrow. You joke about things that don't matter. Bad food, cold socks, the lice. Anything bigger than that crosses a line. No one jokes about death. No one jokes about home. You don't touch those things because they're not funny and never will be. A few prisoners are completely alone. Not physically, just socially. They don't talk. They don't share. They sit at the end of the bunk and keep their back to the room. Nobody messes with them. Nobody asks them questions. You assume they've got a reason. Maybe they know something you don't. Eventually, you develop a kind of radar. You feel the mood shift in a room before anyone says a word. You hear a boot scrape the floor and know a fight's about to start. You see a guard walk past twice in 1 hour and know something's off. There's no privacy, no space. You live inches from other men day and night, but you still feel alone. Because the things you're thinking, you don't say out loud, and the things they're thinking, you don't want to know. So you nod, you stay quiet, you play the part, you give just enough to get by, and never more than you can afford to lose. And if something happens, you look the other way. Almost everyone thinks about escaping, some more than others. Some don't talk about it, but you know. You can see it when they stare at the wire a little too long. When they pace the yard with purpose, like they're measuring something. When they look at the guard towers not with fear, but calculation. The fences aren't just physical, they're mental. You know where they are. You know where the searchlights hit. You know how long the guards take on their patrol loops. You know how many steps it is from the latrine to the fence post behind the mess area. You're not supposed to count, but you do anyway. Most escape ideas don't go beyond a whisper. Tunnels, disguises, faked illnesses, a stolen uniform, a hidden map. Everyone has a plan. No one has all the pieces. You might have an idea. And the guy in the next bunk might have a fragment. But putting it together risks everything. If someone hears, they might report you. If the guards hear, you'll disappear. Tunnels take time, months. You need a spoon, a tin lid, a board pried loose from under your bunk. Dirt has to go somewhere. If they find it, they'll find you. You hear about camps where men carried dirt in their pockets and scattered it during roll call. No one tries that here. The mud is too obvious. Maps are handmade, drawn from memory. Some guys piece them together from bits of packaging, charcoal, even burnt bread crusts rubbed against wood. They guess at train lines, river routes, forests. It's not art, it's barely useful. But it helps. It makes escape feel like a thing that could maybe, someday happen. You imagine how far you could get on foot. How long you could walk before the dogs catch you. How long you could go without food. Whether you could speak enough German to bluff your way past a farmer. You don't like your answers, but you keep imagining anyway. Sometimes someone actually tries. One night, a guy from the back barracks didn't show up at roll call. Panic, sirens, guards everywhere. They searched everything. Found a loose board in the latrine wall. He didn't make it far. They brought him back 2 days later. Face bruised, coat missing. He didn't say anything after that. Other times you hear nothing. A man vanishes. No noise, no rumour. Just gone. You don't know if he escaped, died, got transferred, or got turned in. You don't ask. You just mark the empty bunk and wait to see if someone new gets assigned to it. There are rumours about successful escapes. One guy made it to Switzerland, another to the Russian lines. No one's met them. The stories change each time. Maybe they're real. Maybe they're just repeated enough to feel real. Doesn't matter. The point is, someone did it. Or might have. That's enough to keep the thought alive. The guards talk about it too. Not directly, but you see it. Extra patrols. Dogs brought through on a leash for no reason. Flashlights in the corners after dark. Someone saw a guard test the lock on the gate 3 times in one shift. That means something. You don't know what. You know the chances are bad, but that's not the point. Thinking about escape gives you something to do, something to plan, something to measure. It fills the space between soup and sleep. It gives your mind something to chew on that isn't just hunger and cold. You make checklists in your head. Things you'd need, directions you'd go, clothes you'd wear. You imagine walking at night, hiding during the day, drinking from streams, eating roots, knocking on a door and pretending you're someone else. You've never acted in your life, but in this version, you're good at it. Most days, you know you won't try. You're too weak, too watched, too unsure of who to trust. But that doesn't stop the planning. That's the important part. You need the mental rehearsal. You need the fantasy. Even if the body never moves, the mind has to. And every time a guard walks past, you keep your face still. You don't look up. You don't show anything. You just sit there, hands in your lap, chewing a crust of bread, and wondering what the world looks like 100 miles from here, or 50, or 10, or just beyond the fence. It starts with a whisper. Always does. Someone says they heard artillery last night. Distant, faint, west of the camp. Someone else says the guards are acting different. Not yelling as much. Smoking more. That's supposed to mean something. Nobody agrees on what. Then the rumours start picking up speed. Russians are pushing in from the east. Americans just crossed the Rhine. The British took another city. Someone's cousin's friend said the Germans are retreating. The war's almost over. Nobody can prove any of it. The guards don't say anything official. They don't say much at all. A few seem nervous. One stares at a map on a clipboard longer than usual. Another gets drunk during duty and doesn't show up the next day. You notice. You don't mention it. The food gets worse, if that's possible. Soup is thinner. Bread rations shrink. There are more potatoes, but they're smaller. Rotten spots, half frozen. You eat them anyway. The cookhouse starts running late. They say supply lines are strained. No one's shocked. Mail slows to a stop. No letters, no parcels. The Red Cross boxes vanish. Someone says a rail line got bombed. Someone else says the Germans are hoarding the parcels. Might be both, might be neither. Doesn't matter. You don't see chocolate again. Men start looking at the fence differently. Not like something they have to get through. More like something that might come down on its own. One day, maybe soon, maybe not. No one knows the day. No one knows what's coming. But something's shifting. One of the guards, a young one, speaks English. He mumbles that Berlin might fall soon. Then he walks away like he didn't say anything. You file that in your head and don't repeat it. But others heard. Word spreads. The camp gets a little louder that day. Some prisoners get cautious. They say not to get your hopes up. That the Germans won't surrender without taking everyone with them. That this might be the most dangerous part. That a retreating army is worse than a confident one. There are new faces in the camp. Transferred prisoners. Some from other stalags. Some from transport trains that got turned around. They bring new rumours. American tanks are 100 kilometres away. The camp commander has a suitcase packed. One guy swears he saw a white flag in a nearby town. You don't know what to believe, so you believe all of it a little. Roll calls get sloppier. The guards count faster. Sometimes they miss people and don't recount. That never happened before. You take note. You start planning again, just in case. Not for escape, for survival. For the moment the gate opens and nobody's in charge. The camp radio gets turned off for a few days, then back on again. A German broadcast. You can't understand it. But the tone has changed. Fewer speeches, more reports, shorter announcements, less shouting. A German soldier who used to bark orders now avoids eye contact. He doesn't even check the barracks during inspection, just nods and walks by. You try not to make anything of it, but you do. Everyone does. There's a rumour the guards will hand over the camp voluntarily, that they don't want to fight the Russians, that they're more afraid of being caught by their own side. Someone says they're planning to abandon the place, just walk away. Nobody believes that part, but it's passed around anyway. You still go to work detail. Fewer guards now. Less oversight. You take longer breaks. You speak more freely. Some guys even take tools back with them. Not to escape, just to have them. A hammer feels like power, even if you never use it. Food gets swapped out more often now. More potatoes? Some raw? Some boiled without salt? One day you get a turnip. The next, nothing but cabbage water. The cookhouse is using whatever's left. The guards don't yell when you ask for more. They just shrug. You dream about liberation every night. Not in detail, just flashes. The sound of American trucks. A soldier handing you a cigarette. A door opening. You try not to expect it, but it shows up anyway between sleep and waking. That flicker of something different. You hear distant gunfire again. This time more people hear it. No one confirms it. It fades out. You sit still, waiting for another shot that never comes. You start noticing how thin everyone's gotten. More ribs, more sunken faces. Skin pulled tight across knuckles and cheekbones. You feel your own belt and realise you're 3 holes past where you were last month. Maybe 4. Doesn't matter anymore. You're used to it. There's no celebration, no announcement, just a gradual shift. Less structure, less shouting. The camp is still there, but it feels thinner, like a building with no one holding it up. And in the middle of that, you still wake up at the same time. You still line up for soup. You still check the sky. Because until something actually happens, everything stays the same. It doesn't happen the way anyone imagined. There's no dramatic charge, no gates kicked in, no flags waving, no music, no speeches, just a shift in the air. You wake up the same way you always do. Cold, hungry, stiff. You sit up on your bunk and listen. Something's different. Fewer boots, less shouting. The dogs aren't barking. That alone makes everyone nervous. Roll call doesn't happen. The guards are late. Then they don't come at all. Nobody moves at first. You just wait. Eyes on the door. On the window. Someone stands near the barracks entrance and squints at the towers. The lights are off. No one's up there. You step outside. So do others. One by one, quietly. The yard is empty. The gate is still closed, but nobody's watching it. A few men start walking toward it, carefully, like they're not sure what they're allowed to do. Then someone says it. They're gone. No gunshots, no orders. Just absence. The guards are gone. Some left in the night. Some dropped their rifles and walked out earlier. No one stopped them. No one followed. Someone climbs the watchtower and waves a piece of cloth. Not a flag. Just something white. A shirt. A rag. A signal to whoever's out there that the camp's no longer armed. The rest of you stand in the yard, looking out through the fence at nothing. It takes hours. Then trucks show up. Military vehicles, American markings, actual uniforms that don't belong to your captors. Clean ones, with faces that look shocked by what they're seeing. You watch them take it in. The barbed wire, the barracks, the men in rags. They don't say anything right away. They just look. Then they start moving. They open the gates. They walk in slowly like they're not sure it's real. Some soldiers are young. Some older. One covers his mouth. One lights a cigarette with shaking hands. You can see it. They weren't prepared for this. They didn't know what they were going to find. You can tell they thought maybe the rumours were exaggerated. They weren't. You don't cheer. No one does. Not because you're not relieved. Because you're too tired. Too starved. Too unsure. It doesn't feel real yet. It just feels like something's ended. But nothing started. They bring food, but not much. They warn you to eat slow. Some don't listen. They eat fast. Too fast. They vomit. Some pass out. A medic shouts at the others to stop handing out tins without instructions. You get something warm. Thin broth, crackers, coffee. You drink it slowly, like they said. It burns going down. Your stomach cramps up anyway. But you don't care. You finish every drop. They ask questions. Names, numbers. Where you're from. Who's missing. Who's dead. Who's sick. You answer what you can. Most answers are guesses. You forgot a lot of things in here. Important things. It's hard to get them back. They take photos, notes. You try to ignore the cameras. You stare at the faces instead. At the boots. At the patches on their jackets. You memorise everything. You want proof that this is happening. That they're real. You walk the perimeter like a tourist in your own cage. You touch the fence you used to avoid. You stand in the open like it doesn't matter anymore. It still feels dangerous. But the fear is slower now. Confused. Worn out. Some guys cry. Quietly. No sobbing. Just tears. Others laugh. But it's the kind that doesn't sound right. You can't tell if it's joy or exhaustion. Maybe both. Maybe neither. You sit down and look at your hands like they belong to someone else. They start removing the dead. You knew they were there. You just stopped looking. Now they're carried out in stretchers, covered, counted, written down. It takes all day. At some point you realise no one's watching you anymore. You can walk where you want, say what you want, sit or stand. No one's barking orders. No one's holding a gun. That's when it starts to sink in. You're free. But you don't know what that means yet. Not really. Not when your body's failing. Not when your name barely fits anymore. Not when you don't know where home is, or if it's still there. Not when your whole identity has been surviving, and now there's nothing to survive. You lie down that night in the same bunk, same scratchy blanket, same smell, but the gate is open, the guard towers are empty, and nobody tells you when to sleep. So you just wait for sleep to show up, and hope you don't wake up back in yesterday. They put you on a truck, then a train, then another truck. You don't ask where it's going. You just sit and wait for the next stop. Eventually, someone tells you you're being processed. That word again. You've heard it a lot. It doesn't mean much. Medical staff takes your weight. It's low. They already knew that. They check your temperature, your lungs, your vision. They write things down and nod. They use the word malnourished like it explains everything. It doesn't. They feed you. Carefully. Real food now. Actual meals. Some guys cry when they get a piece of meat. Others just stare at it like it might disappear. You eat slow, then a little faster. Then your body remembers how this is supposed to work. Eventually you're flown back. Transport planes full of men like you. You all look the same. Thin, pale, quiet. Nobody talks much. The engines drown out most of it anyway. You land. People clap. You don't know why. Maybe for the pilot, maybe for you. You don't respond. You're sent to a recovery facility. Beds in rows. Clean sheets. Nurses. Hot showers. Real soap. It all feels off. Like a play someone's putting on. The kindness is overwhelming. You don't know what to say when someone asks, "Are you okay?" You're not. They let you call home. The line is scratchy. Your voice sounds wrong to you. You say you're fine, that you're back, that it's over. The person on the other end says they missed you. They ask questions. You give short answers. You hang up before you're ready. A few weeks later, they discharge you. You go home. But home doesn't feel like it used to. The buildings are the same, the streets, the stores. People are smiling. Kids are running around. Music plays from open windows. Everything is loud and fast and clean. You walk slower than everyone else. You watch your step even when the ground is flat. People want to hear your story. Then they don't. They ask, "What was it like?" You say, "Bad." They nod and say, "Well, it's over now." It's not. You don't sleep right. Too quiet. Too soft. You miss the sound of shuffling feet and wooden bunks and someone coughing 4 rows down. You wake up looking for your boots. You eat everything on your plate like someone's going to take it. Crowds make you nervous. Laughter feels strange. You get headaches. Your hands shake sometimes. You catch yourself counting steps or staring too long at fences. You walk into rooms and forget why. You forget what month it is again. That used to mean survival. Now it's just confusion. Some people call you a hero. You don't argue. You just nod and change the subject. They ask what you're going to do now. You don't know. You haven't planned past soup. You notice things other people don't. How much food gets thrown away. How nobody locks their doors. How everyone is in a hurry. You want to tell them to slow down. You want to explain how fragile everything is. But you don't. You just sit there and try not to say what you're actually thinking. You go to the grocery store and stand in front of the canned meat aisle for 10 minutes. Spam doesn't look the same. You don't buy it. Your family tries to help. They make room for you. They cook your favourite meals. They ask if you need anything. But there's a wall now. Not one they put up. Not one you wanted. It's just there, between their normal and your version of it. Other veterans understand. Sometimes. But even among them, you were a prisoner. That's different. You didn't win battles. You just lasted. They talk about firefights. You talk about potatoes. The conversation drifts. You get asked about escape. About how you made it. About whether it was like in the movies. You say no. That's all. That's enough. Eventually, the questions stop. People move on. You don't blame them. You're glad, in a way. It means they're safe. It means the war really is over. At least for them. You get used to being misunderstood. You take small jobs. You sleep at odd hours. You learn not to react to loud noises. You forget some things on purpose and others by accident. You carry pieces of that camp with you everywhere. Not physical ones. Just the shape of things. The habits. The cold. The silence. You're home, sort of. And most days, that's enough. That's it. That's what it looked like. Felt like. Smelled like. Not the war they put in textbooks. Not the front line. Just one kind of survival. Inside a fence. In a place the world forgot until it didn't. You didn't choose to be there. You didn't do anything special. You got caught. You endured. You came back different. And the place didn't change just because you left it. History skips over parts like this. It doesn't like the slow, quiet stories. The ones without clear heroes. Without victories. Just days. Long ones. But you were there. And now you know what that meant. Good night.